some of the most effective companies for onboarding and retaining talent are offering, obviously, training, weekly Zoom calls, shadowing, ride-alongs, pairing them with some of the best reps in the US and listening to how they come in and pitch to aesthetic practice.
We don't want to just create that great client experience. We want to delight them. We want to do something extra, something that they'll never get anywhere else.
Not only about money, it's about camaraderie and enjoying the job, and also praise. Someone does something good, God, reward them.
Being stuck is a good thing because it means that you're growing. So like, what problems are you facing or like, where do you feel like you're not as strong as where you want to be, so we can support you in that area? So they have to identify, this area I'm a little stuck in. And the purpose of being stuck is not to solve it there in the meeting. It's just for them to voice.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Business of Aesthetics Annual Expert Panel Webinar. This empowering discussion will help you navigate challenges, leverage opportunities, and build a thriving career in aesthetics. Thank you for joining us and our panel of renowned industry leaders as they share with us tonight actionable strategies, best practices, and of course, valuable insights to tackle some of these unique challenges faced by aesthetic professionals today. Welcome to our panelists for this webinar. Heidi Dunavant, we have with us, Stephen Roddy, Wendy Lewis, and Irina Damenidou. I think I got that right.
Yes.
It is great to have all four of you with us tonight. Thank you for being here and taking the time to share your wisdom and your experience with us. So today, with our Business of Aesthetics Expert Panel Webinar, we're going to be discussing building a high-performing med spa team, specifically hiring, training, and retaining top talent. This is a live event, so please engage with your peers, ask questions, and we're confident you will leave equipped with actionable strategies to implement immediately. But before we dive in, let me just ask you this. When potential patients in your area search for treatments you offer, does your practice actually show up, or are they finding your competitors instead? This is a major challenge for many aesthetic practice owners. You might be offering amazing services, but if you're not visible online, you're missing out on a steady stream of new patients. The good news, really good news, there's a fix. With the right digital marketing strategy covering local SEO, targeted ads, and funnel-based content marketing, you can not only attract more inquiries, but more importantly, convert them into actual patients walking through your doors. Now, here's the best part. I'm going to encourage you to stick around to the very end of our webinar tonight because we've got something very special for you, something that can help take your practice's online presence to the next level. Interested? Well, hang on. We'll get to it when we get closer to the end of the webinar. But let me go ahead now and just go ahead and introduce our panel and I'm just leading off with myself. And my name is Michael Walker. As a leadership coach, professional mediator, and facilitator, I'm passionate about helping set leaders and their teams up for success that matters, helping them lead themselves well so they can lead others well. With a focus on communication, conflict, and change, my team and I at Capstone Coaching help unlock and engage the full potential of an organization and its people. Our first panelist tonight is Heidi. Heidi is an experienced national talent acquisition expert and founder of the Aesthetic Recruiter, specializing in aesthetic and luxury skincare industry. She focuses on placing sales reps in the aesthetic industry to sell skincare, injectables, biologics, regenerative products, aesthetic devices, lasers, and capital equipment medical device sales. With a strong track record of successful placements of top talent and deep industry experience, Heidi is a trusted partner for growing aesthetic brands. As a recognized LinkedIn influencer with over 43,000 followers, she is a leading voice in aesthetic industry recruiting. Our second panelist tonight is Stephen Roddy. Stephen is a dynamic entrepreneur, media personality, and visionary business leader. At the age of 23, he made headlines after he graduated from seminary and became the youngest owner of a professional football team. I saw that and I have lots of questions about that. A former model and television host, Stephen's career has spanned the entertainment industry and the business world. He founded pageantplanet.com, now the largest pageant marketplace globally, empowering over 650,000 individuals daily to achieve their dreams on stage and beyond. Through his work in the pageant industry, Steve met his wife, Renata, a former Miss Massachusetts, United States, and together they co-founded Modern Beauty Con and Rodney Med Spa, two thriving ventures that are expanding the safety and profitability of the medical aesthetics industry. His expertise in brand building has led him to consult for firms, magazines, designers, actors across North America, from Canada to Hawaii, and probably a great source of football tickets, I'm thinking. Our third panelist up is Wendy Lewis. Wendy is the founder and president of Wendy Lewis and Company Limited, a global consulting firm specializing in strategic marketing for medical aesthetics, beauty, and wellness for over 27 years. She founded her consulting firm after managing 2 surgical practices in New York City, giving her a 360-degree perspective on the business of aesthetics. An award-winning writer and author of Aesthetic Clinic Marketing in the Digital Age, from Meta to AI, she's also a regular contributor to leading publications like Modern Aesthetics, Aesthetic Society News, and Practical Dermatology, and serves on the editorial board of Prime International Anti-Aging Journal. With a deep understanding of market trends, digital strategy, and the provider-patient experience, Wendy has built a respected reputation in the aesthetic space. Internationally sought-after speaker and moderator, Wendy presents globally at top-tier conferences, and her contributions have made a lasting impact on how aesthetic practices grow, engage patients, and stay ahead in a competitive digital landscape. And fourth up tonight, our panelists tonight, the fourth is Irina. Irina, with over 25 years of experience in sales, marketing, management, and customer service, Irina leads Hebe Medical Spa with passion and expertise. She oversees all business operations while working closely with the medical director to curate cutting-edge treatments, including laser skin rejuvenation, injectables, and wellness services. Certified in laser treatments with extensive skincare knowledge, Irina excels in optimizing operations, staff development, and revenue growth. Her mission is to position Hebe Medical Spa as an industry leader that leverages advanced technology to help clients look and feel their best. Man, we have a great lineup tonight, and I'm so appreciative of you guys taking your time. You'll see on your screen now the main points for today's discussion that I'm confident will help deliver, as I've said before, an amazing and insightful webinar. We also have some great questions lined up for our panel, and I'm looking forward to digging into those with you. And I mentioned earlier, I would encourage you to connect with us through the chat. It's on, it's live, with any questions you might have. And for sure, any comments as things are shared, whether it's a happy face, a happy heart, or a thumbs up, or a comment, please feel free to include that. And any questions you do pose, I will make a point of trying to bring them into the webinar in real time and ask them of our panelists. If for some reason I don't or can't, I can tell you that we will make sure that one of our podcast managers reaches out to our guest tonight, gets the answer to your question, and gets it back to you. So nothing will fall through the floor, hit the floor, nothing falls through the cracks. So having said all that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's get into things here tonight. So I'm going to start off with Heidi tonight in the first question. And the question I have for you, Heidi, is what are the most critical qualities and skills to look for when hiring sales representatives who call on aesthetic practices?
Sure. So my background is placing the reps that actually call on the spots. So a lot of your device reps, skincare reps, and oftentimes injectable reps. So it really depends basically on the title that they are hired for. So oftentimes a junior rep, couple of years out of college, is your cold caller. He is the one that is calling on the spas, calling on the phones, trying to get in the practice. So the one saying, hey, I'll be in the area. I'd like to bring you lunch, bring drinks, bring coffee. What I'm looking for with those reps is, that hunter mentality. that they have to have outside sales experience. They need to be metrics driven and focused on getting to as many practices in one day, setting as many appointments as possible. So the skill set for those reps is very different than an experienced device sales rep who's going to come in and try to close the decision maker on that purchase that they're trying to to sell for their company. So they're going to have more closing skills. They're going to be more active listeners. They're going to listen to your why and your pain points. So junior reps are just there to get in the door. The senior reps are, have better communication skills, better problem solving skills. And then there's your post sales support rep. So this is usually the rep that is brought in after the device is placed or the skincare is placed within the practice. And they are really going to need the skills for marketing, social media, brand awareness, be able to ask the rock stars of the office, where are you guys lacking? What don't you know? What do you know how to pitch a treatment to a patient? How are you answering the phones? Are you promoting the device that you just purchased? So it really differs with the title that you get hired for, the skills that I'm looking for to put you in that role.
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the word that jumps to mind is a skill set that would really align to all three dimensions. That is curiosity, just having a real passion to be curious, to ask questions, and just people love to talk about themselves. And I think it's such a curiosity is something in our culture. We shut it down, and if we pushed it back, and the way you're setting that up, it suddenly becomes a very valuable and important asset to be a great sales rep. Thank you. Stephen, I've got you up next, and the question I have for you is, you've built multiple successful companies across very different industries. How has your approach to building high-performing teams evolved over time, especially within the med spa space?
Yeah. Well, when you first start off, you're just throwing mud against the wall. Like if this is your first business, if you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, I want to start a med spa, or you've already started a med spa, your first approach is just, how do I get people through the door? And I mean, it's natural, right? Because you got bills to pay and children to feed potentially. So that's very natural and organic. And that's how I started too with Pageant Planet, which, well, actually the football team was my first business. It's like, how do I sell tickets? How do I sell advertising? Just got to pay the bills. But as I started at the other companies, it started to have more of a strategic approach where it's like, who am I actually targeting? So when it came to my wife and I's med spa that we started in 2017, we started with $7,000. And you see all these stats that are flowing around, like you have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to start your med spa. And what most people do, when I see the mistakes that people make by owning Modern Beauty Con and talking to all these different spa owners or people that work in clinics that are really struggling financially, is they come out the gate by buying devices, getting the nicest spa, getting the nicest rent, like in all of those things. So they really focus on the aesthetics and having services without really first identify who they're selling to. So what I would encourage you to do, even if you've been in business for 5 years or so, first focus on your niche. You get rich in a niche. So who is your target demographic that you're selling to? And that can be a bit overwhelming, but really you just want to look at the tribe of people that are organically attracted to you. Are they white, Hispanic, or women of color? Or what age demographic do they fall in? What social economic space do they fall in? So really backing into it. And then what I would encourage you to do is look at the financial, or look at the med spa landscape around you. And are these people underserved, or are they just not being really served with excellence? So for our story, the reason why we could sell it or why we could start a med spa for $7,000 is I wasn't sure about the space, but in doing research, I realized that most of the med spas catered to English-speaking Americans, white housewives. But my wife is Brazilian, 100%, so she spoke Portuguese fluently. And so what we did is we rented a room inside of a hair salon where it was predominantly Brazilians. And because there was a steady flow of traffic, we didn't have to spent a lot of money in advertising. And then what we did is we joined every Brazilian-based Facebook group inside of that particular area. And then rather doing the traditional pay-per-click route, which I'm very familiar with, we advertised on Brazilian radio because we realized that most of the Brazilians, for whatever the reason, they listen to radio. So we found a local radio station that was catered to the Brazilian audience, and we advertised there. And that was enough business to, within 6 months, we moved out of that spa space and bought our building that we're in now, and we were able to move in our audience and followed us because we create a website in Portuguese. And then when we moved out, we then flipped it to both Portuguese and English. So you get rich in a niche, and what happens is because people talk about there's so much competition in the med spa space, but when you find that niche, it works a lot like a chisel. There's a very small entry point, but the bigger that you drive that point home, it creates more of a wedge and more of a gap. So you're able to get more market share. And then because I have the space in pageantry and football, we were able to maneuver our ways in and became the official sponsor of the New England Patriots cheerleaders, and also Miss Massachusetts USA and Miss Massachusetts in the America system, which brought in more of the white demographic. And so we catered to that audience, and we started taking pictures like, hey, these are where the celebrities hang out. And we found that really appealed to our audience. So for us and for you listening, your story is going to look different. I'm just sharing to give examples, but you want to first focus on what is that special thing that you bring to the table that no one else can. Who are you attracting? How do you serve them in every aspect? And really like meet them where they are, meet them culturally, meet them where their pain points are. For example, if you're dealing with primarily stay-at-home moms, maybe you have a dedicated room where they can just keep their kids. And you have a part-time sitter that's just there and watching them during their appointment, right? So they can drop them off for that hour or that 30 minutes whenever they're there getting neurotoxins or fillers, and then they can pick their kid back up. You have toys and all that space. So that could be a potential option, but you just really want to focus on your customer experience first. And then once you get that customer experience, people will organically start rebooking with you. We created a rebooking system, which we started out with our rebooking, which is 60%, which is good, but we thought we could get to 80%. So we created a systematic formula that then got us to 80%, but it's all about knowing your niche and having a systematic way where people, when they come through the door, they're going to leave and book their next appointment before they walk back out that door. And you do that first with knowing your audience, because you could have all the people, like all the new patients walking through your door, and they won't matter if I expand it to ridiculousness, if you have a 0% retention rate, right? You're just spending and churning out money. But if you have 100% retention rate and you only get one new patient a month, right? That is going to snowball over time, and you'll never have a want for business. So again, if I was to sum it all up, focus on the niche people, the niche demographic of people that you're serving, and then figure out all different ways to serve them first. Then once you fine tune that, then focus on getting new leads. And this comes to devices and all that. You only bring in a new device or something of that nature if your current demographic is asking it for it, or asking to solve a problem that your current inventory of products don't solve. So don't come out the gate by ordering a bunch of new devices, because you don't really know what your demographic is seeking. So for us, we just started off with some Botox, like literally one vial, because I wasn't sure we'd be able to solve it. But we knew when we had to reorder it by, and we got a box of filler, and that was our entire inventory. And then we booked things from there. Like if we were all out of product, our schedule was all booked until that next shipment of product could come early on. So that's some little things that we did.
Thank you, Stephen. I just want to encourage our listeners, as you're hearing things, there's already, you're getting a huge download of great ideas and thoughts and unique things, proven processes. So just make sure you're capturing kind of the soundbite of that. And remember, you're going to be able to reach back out to any of these folks, and these are experts in the fields that we're focused on. So, don't try and capture everything. Capture something that's caught your attention. And to kind of what Stephen's talking about, if you don't, to know what you're passionate about first, and then reverse engineer the niche, pull it back to the little pieces and bring it down, and just the way he built that all back up. What a beautiful way, using one type of a relationship essentially with his wife that drove an entire business sector growth. That's very cool. Next person up I have is Wendy. And Wendy, the question I have for you is, what qualities do you believe are non-negotiable when hiring front-facing team members in a med spa setting, especially with the provider-patient experience in mind?
That's a good question. To me, it's smiling, happy people when you walk in the door. I mean, you go into a spa sometimes and it's like, do you really want to be there? Is that really what the patient is looking for? I think it's so important. If you think of anyone in your front desk, and I used to run plastic surgery practices, I looked for happy, peppy people. They didn't have to be geniuses. If I could train them, that would be great, but they had to have that certain, and it was a Park Avenue practice, not an easy group of patients to deal with, clearly. Very entitled and very used to having pampering and all of that. We needed that at the front desk, and that's where we went through. So I could train someone on how to do the job, but I can't train somebody to be nice. You either are a people person or you're not. And it's a risk if you find someone who really doesn't love people and isn't warm and fuzzy and all those things, because in aesthetics, that's what people are looking for. It's not like, going to Bloomingdale's. I mean, they're looking for someone who is going to remember them. And I'm a big believer in turnover hurts a business, certainly in the businesses that we're in. So I used to, in New York, to keep someone in a front desk in New York City, typically, you're lucky if you can keep someone for a year and a half, because they're so fickle. And I think younger populations don't stay very long in jobs as much as an older population. So I sometimes would do the both. I would have maybe a young person at the front desk who could do X, and then I would have an older person who would be able to take care of some of the different other patients involved. So that was really important for that practice, and definitely something I recommend to the practices we talk with. First impressions are the most important thing. If they walk in and they don't have that vibe, and someone is sitting there, oh, the worst ever. Have you ever been to a restaurant, even any kind of clothing store, and you want to ask a question and someone's on her phone? That's such a turnoff. And that's just not acceptable for aesthetics, because aesthetics is pampering. We're not curing cancer. We're trying to make people happy and feel good about themselves. So that's really critically important. Another thing we used to do, and I still recommend, is like uniforms, or beautiful clothes. So if we had a lot of younger women working in the practice, the last time I ran a practice, and I sent them to Bloomingdale's. I gave them a gift certificate. I want you to pick something you're comfortable with that's going to be appropriate. Rather, if they didn't, I'd have to put them in a lab coat. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted them to have their own expression. They don't need to have an absolute lab coat if they're not medical people. But these are little things that I think make a big difference in aesthetics, because let's be honest, no matter where you practice, there is an awful lot of competition, whether it's a little teeny spa, or it's a corner in a Bloomingdale's, or it's in a mall. You've got a lot of competition, so you've got to stand out. I like what the previous speaker said, what Stephen's done. That's amazing that you were able to create that just by having a Brazilian wife. That's brilliant. I mean, that's your niche. That's not easy to do in some markets, but I applaud you if you're able to do that. The other thing that I'd like to add, and I don't want to speak too long, is you may deal with clients, especially at the front desk, or especially in a plastic surgery office, that they may be nervous. They may be their first time going to a plastic surgery office, or even a dermatologist. And they need to feel that this is the place. I feel comfortable with this. I like the front desk. People are caring about me. That goes a long way, because you don't always see it, even in aesthetics. And, we're talking about patients who are paying out of their pocket. It's not Medicare. It's not Medicaid. They're not using their insurance. And they deserve to be pampered. They deserve to feel that this is the place for me, and I'm going to keep coming back. And I think sometimes we miss that boat. How many times have you been in a drugstore or a department store, and you walk up and there's nobody to talk to you. Nobody can answer a question for you. You've got to look around and sort of like, where are they? That is exactly what you don't want in an aesthetic practice, because that patient's walking out the door, never coming back, and probably will tell 5 friends not to go back because they weren't treated well. So all of these little things, I think, in aesthetics really can make a big difference. I was always a believer in, if I have somebody good and I'm at the risk of losing them, I'm going to make sure that they don't leave me, because they take all that institutional memory with them and go to the next practice, and it's our loss. So if that costs me a few dollars more or an extra vacation day, so be it. Good people are worth it. And they're hard to find in most. In New York, it's next to impossible. It may be a lot better in some of the markets that our colleagues are speaking at, but in New York, it's really hard. So if you can keep someone happy, what I did, and I still believe in this, maybe they've got kids and they don't want to work 5 days a week. Well, you know what? I'd rather have somebody fabulous 3 days a week than somebody not so great 5 days a week. So be flexible. I think in this market, in general, you want to get good people. And if you have to give a little to keep them there and make them happy, that makes all the difference in the world.
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, that's I love the way you've set that up. I was thinking as you're talking about that, my background is heavy in the hospitality and food service side, and we always put out anybody can meet somebody's needs if you have a framework and a concept that aligns to the primary functions, like a meal or whatever it might be. Exceeding their needs requires a little creative thinking and a little bit of outside the box execution. But we're really passionate about putting out the question. We want you guys to be empowered to unexpectedly delight the customer. How do you think you do that? And to your point, get dressed. Well, if I was dressed in clothes from Bloomingdale's, I think I can rock that. Well, there you go. It's that idea of, and I think we don't use, and giving our people the space to actually not only live out that unexpected delighting, but actually be more empowered, engaged in the operation, and have greater ownership to the vision and ultimately the bottom line. Thank you, Wendy. Irina, I'm going to jump to you. And the question I have for you is, with your expertise in both skincare and aesthetics, how do you ensure that your team maintains a consistent focus on the client's experience, even when juggling the complexities of advanced treatments? Boy, that's got to be challenging at times.
Well, great question. And also, Wendy, thank you. I think you kind of segued me very well into the things I'm going to talk about. And Michael, you also used the word delight, which it is something that we started at Hebe Medical Spa this year. Is we don't just want to create a great client experience. We actually want to create a client delight. So we started our practice back in 2018. Our first location was in Fishkill. 2021, we opened the second location in Latham, and last year, we opened our third location in Saratoga. And needless to say, the last 3-4 years has been it's all about expansion. And it was extremely busy by buying buildings, remodeling, and making sure, you're hiring people, and the team grew, the business grew significantly. So this year was about in the middle of last year, we decided that it's really time to settle in and really focus on that client experience. And this year we brought it to the client delight. So how do I manage all of that? Is we actually created a client journey that is kind of like a 7-step process where we really focus on, if looked at all of our digital presentation, so website, social media, when a client finds Hebe Medical Spa, is everything consistent? Is the brand consistent? Is the message consistent? And so the next step would be, once they find us, what is going to be when they decide to reach out to us via text message, email, any a phone call? What is that communication? Is it consistent? Do they get the same, great client experience? And then we have so once they find us and we book that appointment, when they come in, what is the consultation looking like? So we use a form, it's called a client intake form. When the clients come into the spa, as they do their consent forms, we also ask them to complete a client intake form. The client intake form asks a lot of questions about what their concerns and goals are. And we kind of have like different sections, and they're very strategically designed to really gather as much information from the client. And so when the client is ready to sit down with the provider, it's a very easy flowing conversation where really it's more about, as we like to say, is the client gives us the answers to the test, because we don't have to ask them, they already told us. And because they had a little bit of time to really sit down and think about, they probably also put a lot of extra information. Like, for example, what are their concerns? There is a bunch of questions, things that they can check about their skin or appearance, or, what are the things they want to improve. We also have a section called Are You Well? And it's spelled WEL, and that stands for weight, energy, and libido. And so they give us like an answer, for example, are you happy with your weight? And then do you want to lose weight? Are you happy, or do you want to, where you are? And then the energy and libido, because we also have a whole section of wellness where we do medical weight loss, we do peptide therapy, we do hormone replacement therapy. So those are really great. It's a great opportunity for us to know the client is here maybe today for their skin, but maybe there are other opportunities that we can uncover. And then, there is like, do you have any events coming up? Because that tells us how motivated they're going to be. And also there is a section about talking about the budget. So there is like a very strategic process that we follow. And I think that that's kind of what helps us to, stay more consistent.
Thank you. And I hear consistency, I hear brand accessibility, I hear execution, and then I hear about celebrating the wins, that it's not just financial, it's relational, it's how people feel valued and heard in your organization. And having that kind of a structure, just people can easily find their place to buy in and support the team. I really like how you put that.
The other things too is like, it's when we cover all the concerns that the client is here for today, we don't go into solutions, we actually go into education. So you have acne, maybe you're here for acne scars. What are the 4 different types of acne scars? Which one do you have? How, and then we get into the, what are the different, the treatments. And then a lot of times as people come, they check so many boxes, it gets really expensive, and you can put like a really great plan. We have a client coordinator that comes and starts working with the client of setting up based on their budget, how we can set up, is it going to be everything today, or are we going to set a process over the next 12 months? What does it look like? So we kind of have like something for everyone. We've created a lot of memberships and things. So I do think that it's very important to have a consistent approach, because also there is an opportunity for an injector to maybe send to an esthetician, or an esthetician to send the referral to an injector. And we work together as a team to ensure that the client receives the best service. And then the last comment I'm going to make about the delight is this year we kind of decided, because I think Steven said there is so much competition. How do we stand out? I mean, we have kind of established ourselves in our markets as the leading medical spa, but there is so many medical spas that are opening around us. Why a client, and I think Wendy spoke about that, why a client should choose to come to us, right? They have so many choices. And we don't want to just create that great client experience. We want to delight them. We want to do something extra, something that they'll never get anywhere else. And we do have like a weekly Zoom call with all the 3 locations. And there is a special section where we celebrate per location. Each location has to nominate one of the employees and tell us about a client delight story. And we celebrate that because we really want to encourage, and that's the kind of like the culture that we are trying to create.
Thank you. And that's, yeah, absolutely. I love people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that starts with our team, that we actually choose to want to hear from them and celebrate those wins. I love that. Heidi, I'm coming back around to you. And the question I have for you is, what are the best practices for onboarding new sales reps to ensure they quickly understand the unique needs of aesthetic practices and successfully sell medical devices, lasers, skincare, and injectables? You're unmuted, Heidi.
Sorry about that. It's interesting just listening to the panel because obviously my job is to place the reps that call on the med spas, which I'm sure a lot of practices just, roll their eyes. Here comes another one. Turnover can be extreme in this industry, especially on the junior sales reps that are cold calling and trying to get into your offices. So you may find that, a company, I won't name names, but there are many that they may have 4 different reps that are representing that company in 1 year come and say, I'm from company X. And you're like, here we go again. The problem with onboarding sales reps is that there are not a lot of these. Let's focus on the aesthetic device ones, the ones that are selling the lasers and all of your capital equipment. They may offer training on the products, but that isn't as important to them as getting the rep out in the field. So they may offer that quarterly. And what they will do is that they will hire a rep and they get them through all their bumps and bruises and have them get their feet wet and learning to literally just be in their car, getting out of their car, parking, knocking on doors, trying to get an appointment and burning them out. And if they would, in my opinion, offer the training on their company, on their devices right from the get-go versus waiting until, the end of each quarter, because oftentimes a rep may have been working for that company for 3 months and there's just little things that they don't know. Some of the most effective companies for onboarding and retaining talent are offering, obviously, training, weekly Zoom calls, shadowing, ride-alongs, pairing them with some of the best reps in the US and listening to how they come in and pitch to aesthetic practices. So oftentimes you may see 2 reps come in to one of your spas at the same time. Sometimes those are job interviews. Oftentimes, you don't know, but one of my candidates could actually be on a job interview and they say, come do a ride along with us and just listen to how we're presenting to you.
Did we just lose you, Heidi?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Okay, I thought we just had you freeze there. Thank you.
Okay. Interacting, role playing, scripts, Zoom calls, assigning books for these reps to read to really help them grow and engage, hopping on calls, making sure that they are not led by fear-based leadership, making sure that they feel comfortable calling and asking their boss. I struggled today. I got a lot of no's, a lot of doors slammed on me. What can I do? Let me tell you the script and what I'm saying and why I'm getting eyes rolled at me and doors slammed. And oftentimes that's because you guys, as practice owners, have seen multiple reps come in over and over and over, and new device companies come in, new skin companies come in, and you're pretty much overwhelmed and tired of reps coming in and trying to tell you why their product is the best and why you need to have it. So I think a lot of it, just to sum it up, goes back to if you can train the rep that you bring on right out of the get-go, and most of the time they're male reps, and explain to them understanding, tonality, hand gestures, body language. Why is everybody at the front desk so angry at you when you walk in? What are you saying? What are you not saying? What questions are you not asking? And oftentimes that isn't given to new sales reps. They say, here's your script, here's what you need to say, here's your zip code. We want you to call on every med spa this week, dermatologist next week, OBGYN the next week. Your job is to get an appointment for a senior rep, and that's all you need to do. And they don't really understand the dynamics of the aesthetic space. And it's usually an office filled with women, and it's some young locker room jock trying to come in and sell you the latest, greatest technology. So I think it kind of goes back to earlier training would help reduce turnover, in my opinion.
Thank you, Heidi. That really well put. And you remind me of the ratio of of communication, that we know that 70% of our communication is actually by words, 38% is by tone and how we use it, but fully 55% is our body language. It's how we present ourselves and how we communicate through our body. It's one of the great challenges of the world now of text and online meetings, is we lose so much of the 55% of relatable content in communicating. So thank you very much, Heidi. And now, you talked about locker room jocks, Heidi, and I'm going to go to Stephen next. I don't know how that just happened.
That's a segue.
Yeah, do you like that? Stephen, the question I have for you is, how do you create a feedback culture within your team, especially in an industry where performance and client experience are so closely linked to personal development?
What we do is if you're familiar, there's several different business operating systems. We like the one that's scaling up. Vern Amish, I think is his last name, but it's called scaling up. I mean, there's several of them out there. So what we do is we do daily huddles, and it's a very quick 15-minute where we talk about what's up. I'm sorry, we review stats. So we review our key KPIs, and we review that first. That takes about 3 minutes. And like new patients, revenue, here's where we are in comparison to where we need to be. And then we talk about what's up. So everybody kind of goes round robin and talks about what's up, where it's so have already looked at their schedule at that point, and they'll be looking at new patients, or there's somebody that's coming in that maybe they're not sure about how to treat them. So they're talking about that. If they have a gap in their schedule, they self-identify, I've got a gap, here's what I'm planning to do with my time. And then the office manager will either say okay or redirect them. And then they talk about where they're stuck. So there's 3 things that we cover within that 15 minutes: stats, what's up, and where you stuck. And stuck is actually a good thing in our culture. And if somebody goes through day after day and they're never stuck anywhere, then to us, it signals a problem. So we course correct them and say, no, being stuck is a good thing because it means that you're growing. So like, what problems are you facing where do you feel like you're not as strong as where you want to be, so we can support you in that area? So they have to identify, this area I'm a little stuck in. And the purpose of being stuck is not to solve it there in the meeting. It's just for them to voice it. And if it is something that's quickly solvable, like, oh, I'm stuck, I don't know what I should do at this time, and it's like a 30-second solve, that's fine. If not, we take that offline, and it's coaching, it's training, etc. So that gets them in the mindset, in the daily rhythm. Then what we do is we have monthly team meetings, and the team meetings it's set by an agenda for the staff. So everybody then, again, similar rhythm, we talk about stats first. We review core values. We talk about wins for the month and areas of improvement. And so the things about wins is it not just your personal wins, you're looking through the company as a whole and say like, oh, I really like the fact that, we implemented this and it worked good, or I seemed like that post that we did on social media went viral. I really like that Julia, our front desk person, helped me out in the back office. And where what could be improved is also not just to them. They're like, well, area I'd like to see improved is it seems like we're running behind, or seems like these meetings take a little bit long, or anything. And I encourage them to say like, it really is anything. Even if you don't like my tone or my leadership style, I want to know that too. And I back that up with our core values. So our core values, core values is what determines company culture. And it's one thing to say your core values, but it's another thing to live them. So a lot of people have core values, or worse off, they'll ask a consultant to help them identify the core values. This is very simple, and it does create this feedback loop within your staff. So for us, we have 5, and here's how I identified the 5. And I won't go through them all, but I made a review of everybody who I've worked with in the past, whether they were an employee of mine or somebody I worked with, like in another corporation. And I said, like, what did I like best about these people, and what did I like worse? Because you all know that person that you worked with or that you hired, like, oh my gosh, they got on my nerves so bad. but it's in identifying what was it about them that got on your nerves or made them a bad employee, and just make a list. And you don't have to do the name beside the list. You just make a list of the attributes. And then others like, oh, so-and-so is such a good staff member. Again, make a list. What made them a good staff member, a good teammate, a good employee, or a good boss? Like, what were those characteristics? And make that off. And you'll see that like this is the antithesis of that. And then that makes up your core values. So there's one of the things, one of our core values is authenticity. And I loved working with people that were wildly authentic. If they're like, that is a dumb idea, Stephen. I don't think we should do that. I love that. And then I also loved it when people were like, I hate this part of my job, because it's like we're all doing this not because we're living to work, but we're doing this to provide for the people that we love and want to be around and support. So we all should be having fun at what we do. And if you hate doing something, there's somebody else out there that would love doing it. But I don't want you to quit because you just hate an element of your job. Let me know. I'll find somebody else. The other thing is course correction, right? So whenever we hire someone, you're going to make a mistake. Let them know you're going to make a mistake. And you know what? I'm going to make a mistake in leading you. I'm going to send off an email. The tone's going to be wrong. I'm going to say something. It's not going to mesh with you personally. I'm going to use probably a word that maybe is offensive accidentally because we just come from different cultures. Like, it's fine. It's totally fine. Because as long as we course correct and we're not making the same mistakes. Because the two biggest like rules for an employee is one, don't make your boss mad, and two, don't get fired, right? But the problem is they don't know what makes their boss mad, and two, they don't know it's really going to get them fired. But this is where the core values come in. I'm like, if you want to make your boss happy, follow these core values. If you want to make me angry, violate consistently the core values, because it's like oil and water. Like, it's just, you're either going to choose out or the company is going to push you out if you consistently violate these core values. So with the core values, talking again about the feedback loop, what you want to do is you establish those core values as the foundational. When somebody comes in and starts working for your corporation, you review core values, right? Your interview questions should be in alignment with the core values. But you let them know, like, this is what makes up our company. And we normally take our employees out for the first day, like for coffee or like a breakfast before, just to get to know out of the office. And that's their first day of work. And then we'll like send flowers and stuff like that to their home. So it's like a surprise when they get home from the first day of work. We're like, oh, like, we appreciate you. Like, we're welcome to the team. And then we cover the core values. Then throughout their career with us, we discipline and we promote based on the core values. Like, hey, Julie, you did a really good job by being authentic, and I just wanted to call you out for that. Awesome. Or if there's a breakdown of communication, which is another one of our core values, or not keeping your time commitment, we say, like, this is really frustrating because our core value is keeping your time commitment. You said this would be done at Monday at 5, and here we are Tuesday morning, and it wasn't done. So you didn't keep that core value. And so we're constantly reinforcing it. So you start off with core values, and then you have like a daily huddle, which starts the day, which covers stats. Stats point to core values and keeping the lines of communication. And then you're telling them where they're stuck, which creates that feedback loop. And then you have a team meeting. You can do it. We found for us, we started to do it weekly. We found like that was a bit too much for us. So we did it monthly, and that seemed to work better. But again, you're reinforcing the core values in the team meeting. You're saying what worked. And like, again, as owners and as the managers, you want to call out, oh, what really worked was, mention it, but use it against the core values, right? So you're always making that correlation. And then the areas that could be improved is just, for us, like the wild, wild west, but you could ultimately try to point it back to the core values as well. It's like, hey, our patients are running late, or our appointment times are running late. We're not keeping or adhering to our core values of keeping our time commitment. So we need to find a way to course correct that. But you're always using those language. And then the cool thing is you'll find and you'll overhear staff coaching each other based on the core values. So it really does create that feedback loop, and it does really establish that company culture.
Thank you, Stephen. Some great takeaways there. And I think it's so important that we look at being, the word that comes to mind, everything you talked about is being intentional. Things don't just happen. You got to be intentional with them. You got to design them, and then you've got to have mechanisms to actually evaluate them and build them in a way. And a great way of putting that together. The next question is for you, Wendy, and the question I have for you is, turnover. We just been talking about that a little bit. Can be a challenge in aesthetics, and as I think you mentioned, very costly. What key retention strategies have you seen work across your 27 years of consulting to foster a thriving, loyal team culture in med spas?
Well, I think it changes all the time, but it's not only money. Surprisingly, I think sometimes it's perks more than money. I mean, money is nice, but not if you have a miserable boss or you hate your job. Even the money isn't going to keep you there. So my philosophy has always been, and I have a fairly long-term staff. I like stay-at-home moms who have a good skill set and want to take, be able to go to a family member or their child who's having a recital at school without having a problem. And this has worked very well for me. And I also have recommended it to a lot of the clients that we deal with. So one of the things that I think money isn't everything. Yes, of course, we all want to get paid well. However, there are perks that sometimes are more important than money. And some of them are the simplest little silly things, like Starbucks on a Friday afternoon. I mean, it sounds simple enough, but like if you drink coffee like I drink coffee, it's a really nice perk. Things like that can actually be subtle and inexpensive and small, but it shows an employee that you care about them or that you're paying attention to them. It's not just dog eat dog. And there are some practices we go to that are, wow, I would not want to work at that front desk. And I think that sets a tone for the practice, and it's a tone that unfortunately patients see it as well. They can tell if someone at the front desk is not happy in her job, and it's a bad look for the practice or the business in general, at least in my opinion. And you know what I mean. We all see this very often in these practices. So some of the things that we like to try to recommend are thinking outside of the box. Is it money that the patient is looking for, that the client is, I'm sorry, is it money, just money that your employee is looking for, or is it something else? Is it acquisitions? Is it the ability to make a little bit more money and learn something, learn a trade? Do they want to learn schooling? For example, when we started, because I am really not good at this stuff, looking at AI, and of course it's, a fact of life and now we all use it. I decided that my team is much better at this than I am going to be. They're younger than I am and they're faster than I am. And so I asked them to choose a course that they wanted to take on AI. I paid for it. And then you give me your notes and teach me what you've learned. So it was a different way of thinking things, because they can absorb things that I don't have patience for because I've got a million things going on. And it really helped us get off the ground on just being able to understand AI, which is really complicated for the average person. It certainly is for me. I use it every day. However, it is complicated. And this way we bounce off each other, like, oh, what did you learn? Or how about this? What do you do? Like this site. So each of us use a different site. Like I happen to really like Claude for whatever it is for a writer. I think it's a really good one. And some of them will use something else, but we own all of them and we use them enough. But it helped me to learn and it helped them to learn. And they were much better at learning it than I could ever be. So little things, sometimes it's not only about money. It's about camaraderie and enjoying the job, and also praise. Someone does something good, God, reward them. And it doesn't have to be, a gift certificate to Bloomingdale's. Just sometimes a great job. You really did a terrific job. I'm so proud of you. I did that with AI. I didn't have time to learn AI, but my team did. And so I said, pick a course that you want to learn. I will pay for it. And you come back, give me your notes, and then we'll all go together to learn about it. It's more of a camaraderie. It's not forcing someone to do things. These are little things, but just think about the team that you have, and do you want to keep them? So if you want to keep them, you want them to learn more, not be afraid that if they learn too much, they're going to go and work for someone else. That it happens, of course it does, but not if you treat them well, because not every employee treats them well, and money isn't everything. Especially, I think that's a post-COVID thing as well. I think money is not the only thing that matters. It probably does in Heidi's world, because she's dealing with reps who are good at what they do, I'm sure, after you've trained them on how to do it. But I think in offices, it does help to have a little different attitude about it. It's not just, falling out on each other. I ran a practice like that, and it was not fun, not fun at all, where everybody was sort of fighting with each other. And so I've always thought, like, I'm never going to do that in my own business, and I haven't. I also think about the perks that are going to keep the people you want to keep happy. Starbucks is like the obvious thing, but anybody can buy their own Starbucks, although Starbucks in my neighborhood is pretty expensive. But there are other things like family time. There are all things like learning a skill. And when I ran a plastic surgery practice, there was a 6-month, could be longer, could be less, but usually 6 months was a good number for someone who wanted to have a procedure done. And we would tell them maybe that we would charge them something for it, but I was kind of a softie and I would let them have it done if they stayed long enough and really prove themselves. And why is that important? Because the patients who are coming into an aesthetic practice, what is better than the front desk person or the nurse or the esthetician in the practice to be able to say, oh, I had it done and it was such a great experience, and here's my before and afters. So it's a win-win. Not only you're using it as a tool for patients, but you're making a staff member happy. And another reason to keep them here in your practice rather than losing them. Turnover hurts. It hurts in so many ways. It's institutional memory that you really can't get back. It's starting over. So when you think about it, I really think it's important to keep the staff that you really want in your practice, and the ones that aren't cutting it or are making problems or making people unhappy, that may be something that you either like have them do bookkeeping where you don't have to deal with them in the office, or get someone else. I mean, life's too short. You want to have a happy team. If the team isn't happy, they're not going to stay with you anyway. So that was my philosophy when I ran a practice, and definitely things that we discuss when we work with other plastic surgery practices or dermatologists. But, I think that a lot of this has changed now, and turnover, unfortunately, I think it's harder to keep people in practices, but it isn't impossible if you think about what your staff needs and how valuable they are to your practice. Because again, institutional memories count a lot, and the patient who walks in and sees the same person at that front door, it's like family, rather than, oh, here we go again, starting with someone new, someone's new at the front desk, they don't know how you do things, they're not sure about this, you've got to train them. It's too much work, and I think it can really, it denigrates the practice. It makes it seem like there's something wrong, that every time I come in, there's somebody different. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Wendy. And I was thinking of the Gallup poll. They say the number one reason people leave an organization is because they don't feel valued and heard. But that goes way beyond the economic side. They've now added to that, people don't feel valued, heard, and respected. So that's not about money, and that's about just what you're talking about. And so, but listen, I just realized what time it is here, and I just give me a second here. I need to share my screen, and I want to carry on, but I want to make sure that our time is coming to a close. I just realized how late it is, and you guys, it's been awesome. A lot of very comprehensive answers to questions and lots of takeaways and lots of insights. So thank you so much. But I do want to I promised you before we wrap up the webinar that I was promised you a very interesting gift. And here it is. So it's a gift from the founder of the Business of Aesthetics Expert Panel webinar, which is what we're on right now. His name is Narain Arulajah. He is the CEO of Equa Marketing, and they are a digital marketing organization for doctors and specifically medical professionals such as aesthetics practices. As a token of our appreciation of your time and participation, Narain is offering you a free marketing strategy meeting with Lila Stone the Business of Aesthetics and Marketing Director for Equa Marketing. Lila has established herself as a trusted expert in digital marketing and is passionate about empowering medical professionals with the marketing tools and knowledge to stand out in a very competitive market. You can see on the slide in front of you that she has considerable specializations, and whatever aspect that you are in, whether it be in a direct practice, there is a benefit for you. I do want to mention that if you look on the screen, you'll see if you're not using your phone for the webinar, you could scan that code. You'll also find in the chat, there'll be a link where you'll be able to book your complimentary session with Lila at your convenience. There will also be, we will also make sure that that gets posted when we post the webinar itself. But whenever we have an opportunity like this, we always get them. It kind of speaks to, we've been talking about with sales reps, and there's two questions I always look at things through the lens. One is, the first question is, what's at risk if I reach out and book a session? I mean, that's the first one. And in this case, it's just your time, which is super valuable and important, but there is no hooks or tricks. There's no downside costs, just your time. But probably more importantly, in a time like this, and the things you've been listening to tonight and hearing and innovative ideas, and if you're thinking about reaching back out to one of our experts, the second question is, what's at risk if I don't? Now, we all need to consider that. And if we're not an expert in a particular field, well, we've got experts here you can reach out. And certainly with Equa Marketing, with this marketing strategy meeting, they can set you up for success with your online and digital presence in a way that will bring those new customers through the door. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you. First of all, thank you to our expert panel, Heidi and Stephen, Wendy and Irina. You guys, so much insight, amazing best practices, oh my goodness, and wonderful actionable content. I think if I was going to sum it up, I'd say collectively you made the complex simple, the hidden visible, and certainly the difficult easy. Secondly, thank you to all of our attendees for the privilege of your time and your participation. Without you, we don't grow together, and without you, we don't set each other up for success. A reminder to like, share, and review us on your favorite social media, and you can be part of someone else's success. We love follows and likes. So until next time, and on behalf of our panelists, keep striving for excellence and exceptional patient care. Thank you again to our panelists, and thank you for being with us tonight. Mike Walker, until next time.